Hello, hello, hello. Here I am for my first live this evening. This evening for me, because it's 8:05 in France. What time is it where you are? So this evening, we're going to go live on the Phoenix group like we do every single evening so far. And this is my 16th day of going live twice a day. It's been quite a push. And there have been times when I've got to sort of like almost 8:30. We go on at 9 my time. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I haven't even gone live. Do you know what I could have done? I could have just gone, oh, not tonight. Not tonight. But instead of that, I didn't. I went, all right, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to push myself, because you have to push yourself. I have to push myself to come and sit here every day and give you little nuggets of hoof care gold over a career that spans in hoof care and understanding hooves well over 2 decades. And I have to sit here and I have to push myself, that I have sacrifices that I have to give up, right? But I'm not looking for pity, and I'm not looking for people to go, oh, that's not what we're talking about. It's not why I'm mentioning it. I'm mentioning it because it's a sacrifice I want to do. It's what I want to do. And my whole family know that too. And they are behind it as well, because it's something that is driven in some people, and it's Gary and I are driven to bring you all the right information. Now, it's only really been in the last few months that we've started showing our faces and coming out and doing lessons and talking to you and doing all of that sort of stuff. And it's already becoming a faster and faster train. People are getting on the train and it's getting faster now, because people are going, hang on a minute. What they're saying is, I understand. I'm starting to resonate with that. So it's working, right? So it's if you can hear clacking, that's my daughter making dinner. And it's working, because I am here, Gary's here, pushing ourselves to try and make a difference, to make a change, because too many people think the equine world is all trotting along nicely, when the reality is it's not. It's broken, and it's been broken for a long time, very much so. And our whole mission for Phoenix, our whole mission for the Phoenix Way and the Phoenix Group, is to teach all of you, as many of you as we can, to understand species appropriate diet and management, to understand the foot that Mother Nature gave the horse, and to understand that the horse isn't broken. Mother Nature didn't get it wrong. She did not get it wrong. She got it right. We are getting it wrong by not understanding about the horse's foot. Dom's here. Hi, Dom. Good evening. And so last night on our live, I wrote a couple of notes down so I could remember this, because this I felt was important. You might like to go back and watch last night's live, which we will put out on YouTube very soon. There's a little bit of a lag, is a couple of days behind, but all the lives are going out on YouTube, so you can go and you can watch as many of them as you like, plus all the It's Not Rocket Science as well. Pia's here. Hi, Pia. And last night I posed a question to our members, a couple of nights previously, actually, and I said to them, your fingernails, how do your fingernails manage to stay stuck to your fingers? So they don't come off, do they? And yet they carry on growing. They keep on growing. How does that happen? How is biology so incredibly amazing that it allows your fingernails not to come off? And you can do rock climbing, you can be a lead guitarist, you can do the roughest of roughest jobs, and they don't come off. It takes an extraordinary thing or force or damage in order for a fingernail to lift. An extraordinary damage. And oftentimes it will grow back just fine. There may be a little bit of scar tissue there, but usually it grows back just fine. But I don't think people ever really think about why the fingernail just doesn't come off yet it grows all the time. We know that because lots of people bite their nails and lots of people file their nails, and I feel that I need to file my nails at the moment. But it's an important thing to think about. How does it happen? Well, it's a similar thing that happens in the horse's hoof. It's all to do with enzymes. It's all to do with an extracellular matrix, connective tissue, all of that sort of stuff. So if you want to learn more about that and why that relates to the horse's foot, and I know that we shouldn't compare humans with horses, but I'm talking about biology, how things happen, how the nails stay on your fingers and on your toes without flopping off, and yet they continue to grow, and yet you can't pull them off, but they're growing all the time. So how does that happen? We talked about that last night. We also talked about stretch. We talked about what stretch looks like when it's growing out. We talked about the fact that it looks weird, but if you are getting the diet and the management correct, really getting it right, and the trim, then what you start to see is this wonderful, what we call healing angle coming in at the top of the foot. And it's an interesting thing, isn't it, that this is not celebrated throughout the rest of the industry pretty much because they rarely see it happening. They rarely see this incredible healing angle coming down in the foot because one, they're not trimming to nature's constants. They're not understanding that you do need to leave the toe wall in play and that you do actually need to trim to the hard sole plane to make sure all those natural angles are correct. Because if you don't do that, you're guessing. So we talked about that. We talked about a very important concept for me as a biologist, which is the physics of biology. So people always talk about physics. They talk about breakover. They're talking about biomechanics. And yet they forget the fundamental things that are going on at a micro level, at a cellular level in the body. And they forget that, which is why we talked about the fingernails. And so one of the big things that we talk about a lot, isn't it? Stop the chop. Stop chopping toes off because it's not the right thing to do. Well, the people that do that have forgotten about biology. Maybe they didn't even really think about that at all. And I've got a saying, which I said last night on the live, which is, don't be so naive to think that if you do something unnatural to one part of the foot, that the rest of the foot doesn't know about it. Don't be so naive to think that the body doesn't know that you've just done something it does not want you to do. And human beings are exceptionally good at doing this, aren't they? It's called putting your own opinion to things, putting your own slant on it, your own spin on something, because it just doesn't look right to you. So this is something that is a big, it's really deep in my heart, which is all about the biology of things. If you need to understand how the foot works on a biological level, because if you know that, you'll know that doing things like chopping the toe off was never meant to happen. And I think it's even more concerning that this hysteria that's gone around the world of remove the toe, because we've got breakover problems. It's not a problem. That doesn't affect the horse. Do not conflate how a biped biomechanics works and how a quadruped biomechanics works. Don't conflate the two. Or it's going to tear the toe off the capsule. It's not going to do that either. We've proved that. So by taking that toe away, what are you affecting? You're affecting all different parts of the hoof. Jenny's here, just clocking in. Hi, Jenny. That's from Jenny from Mini Haven down in New Zealand. What are you affecting? You're affecting so much in that foot. You're affecting growth rates. You're affecting feedback. You're affecting how the horse puts his foot down and the pillars of support. So much that's going on in the horse's foot that you could not possibly even imagine. And all because you just think to your eye, without it being proven, that it looks better. And that somebody somewhere has mentioned that it's going to improve the foot health. that person's forgotten about biology. That person's forgotten about how that incredible feat of engineering was created in order for it to all work together. It's called the Hoof mechanism. Everything works together, but it goes beyond that, way beyond that. It's not just about the hoof mechanism. Let's not talk about it as just a hoof in its own entity. There are 4 hooves and there are 4 legs and there's a big body and there's a head and a brain and a tail and everything, and all of it gets affected. All of it gets affected if we start doing things that are incorrect. And then we throw on top of that pathology. Well, we're creating our own pathology. We throw on top of that all the things that cause the horse's hoof to be unhealthy. Jeanette's here. Hi, Jeanette. Sarah's here. Hello, hello. Heather's Lee's here from the USA. Nice to see you. Caroline's here. You've made it. I think I was just talking to you. And Sandra's here from Czech. So the physics of biology. Nobody ever talks about that. Why do they all just talk about what they think is happening? And yet we've proved it time and time again. I think we also talked a lot about evidence-based science, and what people, I think, don't understand what evidence-based science is. They think it's just a case of just going out there and just doing a study or two with horses and look, it's not that. Evidence-based science is when you come up with a hypothesis. You've got a hypothesis about something, and then you come up with that hypothesis in the lab. And in our case, in the equine world, it's a lot to do with cadaver legs, a lot of research on cadaver legs, which is great. That's a start, but that's only where you start. It's not where it ends. And unfortunately, too many horses, it's been extrapolated across the species that it ends in the lab. That's the important aspect. Oh, this is happening in the foot. That therefore means that means my theory is correct. And yet we have proven most of those theories about laminitis to not be true in terms of tearing of the lamina, in terms of the lamina suspending P3 in the capsule, those sorts of things, SADP. So evidence-based science would be, I've got a theory. I think that P3 is suspended in the capsule. I think it's suspended in the capsule and it's suspended by the laminae. That's my theory. So that is a theory that has been put out and the world has followed it through lots and lots and lots of cadaver studies, lots of cadaver legs been looked at. But the evidence of that should have been, now let's take that study, those studies, let's take that theory and let's go and test that in the field. Not test it on horses that we've just taken from a dealer and given them a load of oligofructose and caused them to go into laminitis, and then we test them for 8 days and then put them to sleep. That's not evidence-based studies. And then go, oh well, that didn't work. I didn't get rotation, etc. I think what we need to do is do it again. No. Stop right there. Stop there 20 years ago. 20 years ago, you should have gone, oh, I know what we should do. We should be going out in the field and testing this, rehabbing these animals and seeing what happens as they try and recover. Instead of that, what happens? Horses get x-rayed when they've got laminitis. They see P3 is not in the right position and then they put them to sleep most of the time. Why? Because they think that the theory of the SADP, the suspensory apparatus of the distal phalanx, is true. But there was no evidence on it. It was just thought up in a lab. And a few x-rays and a few cadavers and looking at the histology of what was going on in the cells. But did they go out and test that? Did they go out and go, hang on now, somebody says that the reason that P3, our hypothesis, okay, let's say that HM's hypothesis is that P3 is being rotated by incorrect hoof care because P3 does not move in the capsule. Even with stretched lamina, P3 stays where it should be at the end of its bony column. What is actually happening is the hoof capsule is being manipulated. Let's say that that's our theory. Aha, we can go out and test that in the field on live animals and see if our theory is right. E.g., you remove the heels down to the hard sole plane and put P3 back into its correct alignment. Oh yeah, that works. That actually is a thing. That is evidence-based studies. And that if you leave the toe, it will grow out faster than if you chop it off. And that you don't, by doing both of those things, put your horse into harm, possibly having harm, where they are going to have remodeling of P3 and osteonecrosis. That is evidence-based studies. The equine world is notorious for doing this, for having funding to go and do some research. They go and do some research. They think that's really lovely. And then they get funding to go on and do some other research or something similar. Get out of the lab and go and start rehabbing these horses in more natural environments on tracks, because we've been doing that now. Why do we use tracks? To improve movement, to increase more natural habits, to put horses in a herd. And it's not right to say, oh, we can't all do that, because the world just needs to change. If we want healthy animals, then we're going to have to start thinking about environment enrichment for these animals. They've been thinking about this for years in zoos, decades. We've got to start thinking about this with horses. They're specialist animals. We've taken them from the wild, guys. We just forgot that we did that. We wouldn't think about taking a big wild animal out and putting it into a zoo, a traditional zoo nowadays, and just go, oh, that's okay. We wouldn't think about doing that. We'd be going, we need to enrich their environment, because we know that coming into the domestic world is going to cause them a load of problems. We know that. That's what we should be doing with the horse. We've forgotten this specialist animal. We've forgotten that it needs to be treated like a specialist animal, and we need to, in order for it to be healthy, keep it in a species appropriate way. And we've proved that all sorts of horses, competition horses, every single type of horse can live like that in a species appropriate way. And what happens? They get healthier. That's what we should be doing. Get out of the lab, get into the field, and start properly looking at these rehabs, rehabilitating, reversing what the equine world has done, reversing incorrect hoof care, because it's killing millions. It's killing millions. And all you've got to do is get into the Phoenix group, our free group, the Phoenix Way Path to Hoof Health, and go and see it for yourself. It's very poor out there. The standards are rock bottom, really, really are rock bottom, because these animals are not thought of, because we get on top of them and we ride them and they do our bidding. We've forgotten that they were once in the wild and that they have not changed in 1.5 million years. And if we keep doing what we're doing, we're not going to have this beautiful beast with us forever. There are only 7 species of equus left in the world. And there used to be many, many, many species. There are 7 species of these odd-toed ungulates that are left. Just 7. 3 are zebra species, and they're all on their endangered list. And 3 are wild ass, and those 2 are on a list of being endangered. The 4th species of wild ass was last seen in 1999. Why? Because we are eradicating their environments. We're coming in and we're closing down on them. And so there's only 7 left. So that's 6. And the 7th is Equus caballus, or Equus ferus caballus. And that is our horse as we know it. And in a minute, when we've got rid of all the zebras and we've got rid of all the wild ass, which is where the donkey comes from, incidentally, we'll only have the horse, and it'll be a feeble shadow of the horse, because the majority of them will be in the domestic world, where we are continually harming them. And we have to stop. And it sounds dramatic. Well, let it sound dramatic, but it's true, guys. It's got to stop. It's sickening. And we have to drag poor hoof care, drag the knowledge of hooves out of the swamp that's down there. And that's what we do. Because how many of you want to have an animal in your care, a beautiful, beautiful horse, a beautiful pony in your care, a beautiful donkey that is actually sound, that actually can walk around on its feet without thinking of its feet all the time because it's sore? And and us just ignoring that and going, it's okay, we'll stick a shoe on because that's fine. No, it isn't. It isn't. And it's time that we started to be sensible about it and understand the damage that those sorts of things do to horses. We do really, really need to start thinking more about this. And we need to step up as horse owners. I'm a horse owner. And like I say with Gary and I say all the time, the first 3 letters of owner are incredibly important. You have to own it. You do have to own it. So come along every evening or every afternoon or every morning, wherever you are in the world, and come and see Gary and I talk about anything and everything to do with horse and hoof care, but not just horse and hoof care. It's about changing the equine world. It's about raising the standards of hoof care and welfare, horse welfare around the world. And if we don't start shaking the equine world up and just shoving everything under the carpet like everybody else does and pretending that what we're doing and all these invasive techniques are just okay, then it's going like that. Pathology is on the rise, not health. Pathology is on the rise, and so too it is this hysteria of what can we do to the foot to make it better? What can we feed the horse to somehow make it better? I know if I feed it something, it's going to make its feet better. Do you know what makes its feet better? What makes the feet better is the correct trim, the trim that horse needs for its natural foot. And what makes the health better is feeding what that horse needs and how Mother Nature developed the gut for fiber, for the microbiome. Because you're not feeding a horse when you feed it. You think you are. You think you're getting all that bagged feed, all those bagged feeds and the supplements, etc., that get digested, a great deal of them in the small intestine, with an animal. In fact, I'm not going to say that bit because I've got a question for our group tonight, and I'm going to use that part of a gut question tonight. We think that we're feeding the horse lovely, lovely, yummy food that we're giving the horse. We're not. We need to think about the microbiota, the microbiome, because they're herbivores, and we are feeding that microbiome. That is what we're feeding. And if we don't encourage that microbiome, the horse isn't going to get its energy in the right way. You don't want horses to get energy by a ton of sugar. You want them to get energy by volatile fatty acids, and they get that by the microbes creating them through fermentation in the gut. You see, you don't know this sort of stuff. And why should you? You don't have to. But what you do know is that when you get it right, all of that falls into place. I don't want to look into my paddocks and my tracks and see horses hobbling around or horses that are propped up in shoes because I need to make them sound. That's called being pseudo sound. Because if you take shoes off and they're hobbling about, they're not sound. I don't want to see that. And I don't want to see it anymore. Over 20 years, I have watched this happen. Over nearly 25 years, I have been watching sickening things go on in the horse industry with feet which are crippling horses, all because the diet, the management, and the trim is wrong, and it's not changed, and it's not changing. And that's what we are about. The Phoenix Way Path to Hoof Health is about changing that, and you can help us change it, because you can become our Phoenix Warriors. You can even become a hoof hero if you get on our challenges, and we'll teach you how to do it. We'll teach you how to keep your horse in a species-specific way. We will teach you the right stuff to feed your horse. We will teach you the stuff that people knew years ago, but they're kind of forgotten about now. We'll teach you the right way to trim your horse, and to the point where you can do it yourself as an owner. Why not? Why can't you do it? What's so special about me? What's so special about Gary? What's so special about all of us that go out and trim horses' hooves? It's just technique, and it's just knowing where to trim to. It isn't difficult. it is the difficult part, my friends, is when you have to do 14 horses a day, and then you have to build up stamina, and you have to know what you're doing with each and every sick hoof that you see. But when you're just trimming your own horses and you feel determined enough to do it, I have people who I am training who are in their 60s who are picking up a rasp for the first time in their lives and trimming their horses' feet and learning. Why? Because they can't rely on their professionals, because they've let them down. So don't think you can't, because you can. You can't go off and be a professional. We've got a 2-year training program for that. But can you learn about your own horse's feet? Yeah, you can. Libby, Angela, I guess I'm going to see you all tonight. Vivian's here. Don't ever be sorry you're late. Hi from Annette's here, Popovich from South California, and trimming right now while listening. Brilliant. I may lose some of my clients. Oh, well, the horses are more important. Oh, well, but you know, the day you make a stand and you go, when the owner says to you, it's happened to me many times. They say to me, "Oh, can you make the front feet look the same? Because I'm putting this horse in a show and I want them to look the same." I said, "I can't make them look the same because they're not the same, because they've both got issues. Can you take the toe back a bit further because it doesn't quite fit in the hoof boot now, because his toe's a bit long. He's long because he's got stretch, and he's got stretch because the diet's not right. Or can you just take it back a little bit?" No. Here's my rasp. That's my finger rasp, my fingernail rasp. Here's my rasp. You do it. Oh, well, I'm not the expert. No. No, but I'm not going to do that to that horse, because that's not what that horse needs on his feet. So it's difficult, right? There's a big problem out there. So, crikey, nearly half an hour, 27 minutes. Phoenix Way, Path to Hoof Health, every single evening, we are going live. 16 days. This is my 16th day. If I can push myself to go out there and really help you guys, and I want to help you, loads of free stuff we put out all the time. If we can do that, you can do it for your horse. You can do it and stop this nonsense. It's nonsense out there, and you have to stop it. So we'll see you. We'll see you. Yep, you've heard it. We've seen, that's tagging Vanessa. Vanessa, come and watch. We'll see you tonight. 8 o'clock UK time, mid-afternoon in North America, morning in Australia and New Zealand, 9 o'clock in Europe or in France, etc. Come and join us. Join us, because not only will you learn something about your horse, but you'll also learn something about the equine industry, and it won't sit well with you when you realize out there's some stuff going down that shouldn't be. All right, we'll see you then in the Phoenix group. See you later. Bye-bye.